Hi, this is item number TR105 and it's the HeartSine AED trainer. And with me from Prone Trainings is Keith, the Managing Director, and he's going to tell us all about it. So Keith, why would we use a training version when there's the real ones?
Right, if you use a real one, the big problem is that you're using real pads and you're using a real battery. So if it's a unit where the pads and battery are separate, then you're wrecking a set of pads for a start, and they're very expensive. Okay. And also you're using the power from the battery. And also if you're on a training course, then you're having to pull that AED out from wherever it is to use on the course, yet you're only doing trainings. If someone needed it, that's a problem. And finally, not everyone's got a live AED unit around that they can use.
So why have we got a remote control with an AED?
Right, so because it's a training device, it's not going to give you a real shock. So we need to simulate what's going on. So the reason we have the remote control is so the instructor can tell the AED trainer what stage it's at. Because at real AED unit, you'll put the pads on and the unit will know the pads are on. Yes. But the instructor's got to be able to push a button just to move it on to the next level. Because if the student who's learning how to put this on doesn't put the pads in the right way or doesn't put them on at all, then we wouldn't want the unit to go ahead of themselves.
Yes.
Also,
absolutely.
The unit itself will give commands back, so we can simulate some extra prompts, which would be good compressions, push harder, push faster. So you can actually, as an instructor, you can tell the AED unit to encourage the student to do a bit more.
All right, okay, that makes sense. And these items here are?
Yeah, these are replacement pads. So this is a slightly different unit. On the face here, you've got lots of different areas. This will show you where the pad placement goes. This here is a visual chart that shows you how fast and slow you're putting. But the pads is the important thing. So if you just open this up to have a look. The unit itself, you can train with it in the case as you would with a normal one. Yeah. On the bottom, you literally just pull this tab at the bottom and this comes out. The pads are all connected up to a little wheel here. It wouldn't be like that on a real unit, because in the training world you just need to be able to pull that out so you've got the cable out. And then when you need to, you can wind it back in. On the real ones, this will all come up as single use. Okay. So these in this bag are the pads themselves. So these are the same physical size and the look of the pads, but obviously they're just a reusable pad that you can put onto a manikin, or you could put them onto someone as well if you wanted to. Yeah. But they're not the expensive ones with the foil on. Okay. And you can change them, because ultimately they're going to lose their stick.
Right, okay. So even using the remote control, like you say, that's going to forward the instructions, so this is still going to talk like a normal AED? Yeah. Oh. Everything
that the real live unit does, this one will do.
All right.
So you can also set it for different scenarios. So this is the other reason to remote control. So the initial scenario will be that the person has a shockable rhythm, and then maybe that hasn't worked, so it has to do another shockable rhythm, and then the scenario might say the third time they push the shock button, then they get a normal sinus rhythm. So you can change it that it never comes back or it comes back on the first. So there's lots of different scenarios you can set for different groups. So if you're training a large group, you can have one group have one scenario, one the other. So it makes them think about what's going on.
Right, okay. And what else does it do?
Right, so this is different from others. Now, if you were training with this unit and you've got a different brand in your workplace, it doesn't really matter, because every AED unit has a shock button and a on-off button. So the actual buttons are similar. But this one's different because the pads are much easier to put in and out, whereas the others, it's quite hard work to try and tuck all the pads in. Yes, it looks exactly the same. Now, there are cheap AED trainers out there, but they're just a little box that's been made up. They're not a real one. So this is, people to see what it's really like. Yeah, the other key thing with this is it's rechargeable. It's one of the few on the market that are rechargeable. So if you went to a training course and then you find you've got no batteries in it, you can't run the course. No. There's no way you can be able to do it. Whereas this, plug it in for a few minutes, that'll at least top the battery up. So you don't have any running costs with buying batteries, because that can be very expensive, because some of the trainers, they don't last very long on a set of batteries. So there's no batteries, all internal, and it's nice and simple. And you can store all the spare bits and pieces, the remote control, in the back of the case as well.
Sure thing. So it might sound a strange question, but if a normal AED actually gives you instructions how to operate it when you need to use it, why would you need to train?
It's to give people confidence. Also, if someone wants a qualification, so in the workplace setting, you probably need a qualification, because although anyone can use it, it's best practice to make sure people are trained in how to use it. Right. So if you had never seen an AED unit before and then you use it for real, it'll be a lot better if you practiced beforehand. So they recommend refreshing skills every year. And it's a requirement on a lot of training courses now that you must practice AED pad placement and also using an AED in a scenario.
Well, that makes sense, because I think I'd be pretty frightened if I was to use one for the very first time, but yes, if I had some form of training, it's going to make it much easier.
If you did have to use one, you will be fine, because the units talk to you, and this would talk in exactly the same way. So as an instructor, you can use the remote to give commands, you can encourage the person to do better CPR. So yeah, you would be fine. However, it's so important that we train, because what you're doing is you're programming someone's brain.
Yes.
You might not be able to recall it, or you might not have much confidence, but if you've managed to do it in a classroom setting, then you can do it for real should you have to.
Right, so this is a very key piece of training equipment, without a doubt. So thank you, Keith. And this is item number TR105, and it's the HeartSine AED trainer.